Hi, welcome to Sewing with Sandy. Today we're going to talk about 5 coats you can sew up this winter. They all have classes or sew-alongs or detailed explanations about how to make them. The first one we're going to talk about is this Yates coat by Grainline Studios. Fabulous, fabulous winter coat. Tailored, high-end, really lovely construction detail, and the pattern is super easy to follow. Now, a couple of things before we get too far in. All the information will be in the link down below this video, and also stick around till the end. I'm going to show you a little preview of what we get going on for spring. I can't wait. Just figured out all my 5 spring makes. So let's finish with the coats. This is a Minerva project that I did. I did a sew along for them, and you can find that on their website. It's detailed. We went, step by step through the Grainline Studios pattern. This coat is fully lined. It's got snaps, so if you're not into doing coat buttons, which really, your machine has to be kind of heavy duty, this is a really nice boiled wool. And then this gorgeous lining inside, right? So beautiful. And you can see some of the pictures here. I love it when the outerwear looks as good, or the innerwear looks as good as the outerwear. So you can see in this photo here, the inside of the coat, and it looks absolutely stunning. You do want to make sure that you have a nice slippery fabric on the inside, but this coat is beautiful, and there are some really nice details. It has this inseam pocket, so you don't even see it there. This coat is split along here. There's a seam and this gorgeous inseam pocket. And then 2-piece sleeves, which is really nice, and then a notched collar. So those are all high-end, high street details that make your coat look absolutely wonderful. So I would suggest looking into this Grainline Studios pattern if you are looking for a new coat, winter coat, because it's spectacular. The second coat is the Sew Over It London Cocoon coat. Now, when it came out, and I'm not sure, it was probably 5 or 10 years ago, when it came out in their first magazine, and the pattern was only available in the magazine, and they weren't shipping it to the US. You had to pick it up in London. I tried. The first batch I missed. The second batch, finally, when the second publishing came out, my sister, who lives in London, went and got it for me. She went to the store and got it, and it was great. I was really happy. Now you can get it online, but I had to have it. And I had this beautiful teal wool that I had purchased in New York because I knew I wanted to make a coat, but I didn't know what coat I was going to make. And then I had this really fabulous mood mood print that was made an exclusive mood print, and with the birds on it, that I also loved and bought. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. So then when the pattern came out, it was like, oh, this is perfect for this pattern. I love this coat. I wear it a lot because sometimes you don't need a big heavy coat. This one has 3/4 sleeves. There's no closures on it, so it's super easy to make, yet it's really well constructed with the lining and the way it falls. It's just lovely, and it's got pockets, well pockets, which are a little tricky. You need to practice them before you go cut into your wool, but they are absolutely gorgeous. So I highly suggest looking into the Sew Over It Cocoon coat. If you've never made a coat before, a winter coat before, this is a really good starter coat. As long as you practice the well pockets, that's really the only tricky thing in the coat. Outside of that, you should be able to put this together without too much trouble. The pattern is really well drafted, and there isn't a lot of fitting on it. So the shoulders are sloped, and the jacket, the coat is unconstructed. Unlike this one that requires some fitting because you want the shoulders to fit right and the sleeves to fit right. The Cocoon coat is much more relaxed, so it would be a better coat for somebody just starting out making winter coats. The third one is an old pattern. It's an old Butterick pattern that I had in my stash, and I've made it a couple of times. It's a swing coat, very retro, super cute. It's hard to find this pattern, but if you use this pattern as an inspiration and a jumping off point, there's plenty of swing coats out there. And I used a raincoat vinyl from B&J Fabrics that, again, I had purchased it because I just loved the fabric and knew I wanted to make a raincoat, but had no idea what I was going to make. And then I found this pattern in my stash and thought it would be perfect because I had made the pattern before. Raincoats are not that hard. if you want to keep in mind that, like, you might want to do flat felled seams or somehow stitch the seams down, but working with vinyl is not difficult. Your regular machine stitch with a universal needle will work fine, and you can use pretty much any pattern and stitch it up with vinyl. Practice with the vinyl a little bit, see how it works with your overlocker, or your serger, and see how it works on your machine. Try different stitches and threads. But once you play with it a little bit, the trickiest part of vinyl is it's slippery. It's slippery to cut, so when you cut it out, you can tape the fabric to your board and cut it out one layer at a time. That's one way to do it, and then it doesn't slide around. Just make sure to reverse your pattern pieces, because you want to have a mirror image of your pattern pieces when you actually cut it out. The other trick is to pin within the salvages. Pinning can be a little difficult, but you also want to make sure before you put a lot of pins in it that it self-heals. Like if you take the pin out, if it closes up, that's really important, and that depends upon the vinyl. And we're talking about dressmaker vinyl, not the vinyl that goes into like upholstery vinyl. That stuff is a nightmare to work with, and you wouldn't want to wear that coat. It wouldn't be very attractive. But dressmaker vinyl, raincoat vinyl, is a really good alternative, and it's a fun thing to play with. The next pattern that we actually look at is a vinyl poncho, and this fabric you can get from Minerva right now. So this is part of the Minerva Ambassador Program. I do sew-alongs for them, and I also do sew-ups for them. And this was one of those sew-ups where they sent me this really nice Air Force blue vinyl, and it's white on the other side, which I thought was a really great contrast. And this poncho pattern is a cut and go. It's DIY, you check your measurements, and I kind of played around with the contrast and did some color blocking. So down the bottom you have the white strip you can see, and that lengthened the poncho for me because I was playing with the dimensions, and once I cut the hood out, I had to play around with it a little bit, which is what happens when you are kind of cutting and sewing. You know, there's no pattern with this. But one of the tricks with vinyl is if you use a rotary cutter and you're careful and you make really long, nice, smooth cuts, you don't have to hem the edges. So it's already done. So it's super quick. And the other thing, when I did the hood came to like here on either side. So I just made a piece of bias binding to finish this neck edge off, because this will stretch. You don't want this to stretch out of shape. So the bias binding helped contain that. But the rest of the edges are all raw. They were just cut with the rotary cutter, and they look terrific. And I did top stitch down on this one, the seam allowances, because I wanted it to look neat with the hood and everything. I wanted it to look pretty neat. The last coat you can sew is really not a coat. It is a cape, and it's almost a no-sew cape. It's one big piece of fabric, one big rectangle, and slit up the front with a little bit of a lip for your neck edge. And then the seams that are raw edges have to be finished off with either a fold over elastic or a bias binding. And that's it. This wool cape I wear a lot. It's perfect for that spring, winter, fall kind of time when you need a coat, but you don't really need a coat, and you can throw it on and then throw it in the back seat of the car when it gets so warm you don't need it. And I actually have used this on an airplane as a blanket for an overnight flight. You know, sometimes you leave and it's chilly where you are, and then it's going to be nice and sunny and warm where you're going, or it might not be as cold. So this is a really good transition piece, but it works as great as a blanket on an airplane. So those are my 5 coats that you can sew this winter. One thing I want to do coming up for my 5 spring makes, I just got this fabric from Minerva. Isn't this gorgeous? This is fleece. Look at that color. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And this is binding. I'm going to make a sweatshirt out of one of the new Norris patterns from Simplicity. So he has a super long unisex sweatshirt, and yeah, so I'm going to make it in pink, cotton candy pink, right? How cool is that? So that's just a little sneak peek at my upcoming spring plans and collection. And I will see you soon. Happy sewing. Bye.